Hello, welcome everyone to the project kickoff of robotics process automation at AMC Insurance. In today's meeting, I'm glad to welcome all of you to cover this revolutionary initiative to automate a lot of business processes. We'll be covering the project vision, goal alignment of RPA with AMC Insurance, the scope of work and activities, implementing the robotics process automation, our solution approach, delivery model, and Fulcrum as our RPA strategic partner who will be assisting AMC in realizing our organizational goals with RPA. So let me get started. The project vision. This year AMC has a very aggressive plan when it comes to growing our businesses. The management has set close to 15% in annual growth. In our observation, what we've seen is majority of our workforce, when it comes to managing the business processes, is sort of involved in maintaining the successful execution of those processes. Many of them are mundane and almost repetitive in nature, to the point where let's say financial reconciliation is an area where there's tremendous amount of workforce dedicated to get our accounts reconciled, submit the reports to the bank, submit the reports back to the CFO's office, and go on repeating the same cycle until the reports are finalized. Such areas are very well evaluated to be qualifying for a robot, a software robot who would come and free up the workforce by automating the entire process flow. Now, the vision here is to bring in such redundant, repetitive, mundane processes that are anchoring our workforce down onto the robotics process automation. That is where we bring in RPA, robotics process automation, entity which can be programmed to mimic a human action, as I was mentioning, repetitive actions that are being conducted by a workforce to realize the successful execution of that activity. And as we go forward, the sequence of steps that we need to take in terms of completing a activity, and then we have the automation. This is where this project will be focused towards. On to the next slide. This is where we are aligning the RPA with our organizational goal. What are we trying to achieve with RPA? The platforms that we've selected in quarter three and quarter four, Kane's offices and John's offices have worked day in, day out in identifying all of the business processes that we have, identifying the partner, which is Fulcrum, identifying who would be the stakeholders, identifying the department who would go live first. That all came under the advisory and strategic planning. And then we further progressed towards the RPA implementation roadmap, the development roadmap. This is where we are in terms of aligning RPA goal with AMC Insurance. This is where Fulcrum kicks in, and this is where the training for our members will begin. We are anticipating a 6 weeks to go live. Hopefully, the first test robots should be ready by the end of week 4. Week 5 will do certain technical level testing, and then in week 6 we will be focused towards training the respective departments where the business processes are being automated. Getting into the tools that we have opted for to realize RPA. For the first phase, which is where the CFO's offices or the finance division at AMC is going live on robotics process automation, will be using UiPath. We'll be using the UiPath modeler. We'll be using the UiPath technology platform to configure and develop those robots for our respective processes and go forward. These are the high-level project stakeholders identified. We all have our roles and responsibilities shared across with us. We have John Wood, Joanne, Seal Atwood, Elton Rivera from the AMC. These are the business champions who are responsible to drive the robotics process automation internally. and the Fulcrum stakeholders, which are our solution partners. Chris Gilbert will be leading the solution architecture. He's the person responsible to design the roadmap, design the entire robotics framework, design the entire solution framework, the solution architecture, how these business processes would be realized onto a robotics process automation, and followed by Sue Wilkinson, who would be responsible to configure the master robot, followed by Chetan S, who will be configuring the robots on a regular basis. Following the plan that Chris has developed, Sue Wilkinson and Chetan will closely work with Elton and Joan. The scope of work and activities. Major scope and activities are focused towards Fulcrum solution architecture. This is what Chris has produced for us. The UiPath Studio, UiPath Orchestrator, the API connections where we will be connecting this robot with our backend system, with our banking applications, with our report generation systems, and then this is where the execution and the robot itself would work, and the processes would typically follow this architecture. Following this meeting, there is a brief introduction by Chris to give you a walkthrough of how the solution architecture would work, but my objective here is to give you an alignment in terms of how the project is going to initiate and what this kickoff entails. A little further, getting into the RPA rules, tools deployment, or how the RPA would deploy in AMC. We have the UiPath Studio covering the robot development. This is where the Fulcrum team will majorly operate in developing the robots. Once the robots are developed, this is where AMC's team would come in the respective sprint order to provide the accesses to our systems, to provide the API connections and so forth. And then the UiPath orchestrator is also going to come from Sue and Chris from Fulcrum, who will be giving the master robot the automated capability to subsequently, or let's say, he's going to be the robots of the robots, to drive the robots, to manage the robots. So this is a very interesting technology initiative. As I mentioned, it's very revolutionary. It's gonna literally save 5 6 days of our workforce going into these processes to be barely 2 hours of these robots working as per the configurations we've set up. So I'm really excited. The implementation roadmap. What is the RPA implementation really gonna look like? These are the step-by-step instructions. In step one, we're gonna look at the workflows which we've already evaluated and prioritized. We're gonna put them onto the UiPath orchestrator. We're gonna put them onto the rules that would define each robot's activities. Then we're going to be providing the API connectivity, as I mentioned, with our internal applications that are used for our business processes, and they will be communicating with these robots directly. And then we get into the step four, where the RPA journey sort of matures as we go forward, which is where the training for AMC employees would come in. The training for the high level robotics day-to-day configurations would come in, and then we go on progressing the robotics journey as we move forward. These are the two differentiations when it comes to the robots that we're trying to do. The simple robots, I don't we've rolled them out entirely because they are very easy to develop and produce. But the medium robots that would come in would have certain complexities. These are for much intricate business processes that we are looking forward to automate. The complex robots are on the CDOs, Chief Digital Officers level, where the robots are not only gonna focus on the selected activities that we have, but they're gonna span across the board at the organizational level. Claims department, underwriting department, our customer services, our agents, everybody who is involved in maintaining our business processes will have this complex robot coming in. This is Fulcrum's delivery model. how we will be communicating with the stakeholders with Fulcrum team. Who is the COE leader in this case? Is Kane Atwood, who's driving this initiative. Architect lead Chris. Process lead will be Joanne. The developer lead would be Sue Wilkinson. This is the delivery and the communication model, and these are the governance frameworks that will be observed for this project. By this, I feel I've covered much of the agenda pointed that I wanted to in the project kickoff. I will be accepting questions as and when you are ready. Thank you so much.